Well, millennials will soon be the largest generation of voters and thus could have dramatic effects on the political landscape. CBS News is teaming up with digital media company Refinery29 to explore the impact of millennial women on the upcoming midterm elections. We polled women across the country, focusing on those between the ages of 18 and 35. 34% identified as Democrats, 27% as independents, and 19% as Republicans. The 20% that's left over, well, they aren't sure exactly how they identify politically. We found that 7 in 10 are dissatisfied or angry about the Trump presidency and the direction the country's headed. But only 30% of them say that they definitely will vote in November. So with us now to break down these polls are Refinery29 senior news and political editor Ashley Edwards and CBS News elections and surveys director Anthony Salvanto. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So I think one thing that sort of jumped out at me was in the list of sort of issues that were important, health was way higher than I ever thought. I think you sort of think younger people aren't that concerned about health-related issues, but they clearly are.
Well, across the board for all women, young and old, healthcare ranked above other things. For older women, the next in line was immigration and the economy, and for younger women, it was civil rights. But I believe healthcare trumps them all because it's very personal. If you can't afford to go to the doctor, that immediately affects you compared to, civil rights or something else that's a little bit more abstract. So women aren't as, concerned about that compared to other things.
Right. So here you have these millennial women that say they definitely are concerned about the key issues that many Americans are concerned about. They're unhappy with the presidency and the direction of the country, but they don't know if they're going to vote in November. What's up with that, Anthony?
There's a big difference between the ones who are engaged, the ones who say they're enthusiastic, who say they're motivated, and yes, say they're going to vote, and the ones who say that they're not. The ones who say they're engaged, yes, you're right. They are concerned about all those issues. And they also say that they're upset with the direction of the country by and large. They say that what's happened in politics this year has made them more motivated to get engaged. But that difference between those and the ones who say it doesn't matter who controls Congress, and they're not likely to vote. That's important because we often see with younger people, we find that for a while, until you sort of put down roots, maybe you buy a house, maybe you have kids, maybe you start to become part of a community, it's harder to see a connection between politics and your day-to-day life. That's neither right nor wrong, it's just how people view the process because we've seen this for generations. So I think one of the challenges, one of the things that you're going to watch this year is whether or not the parties can start to engage some of those younger folks and sort of make the case that it matters.
Yeah, I find that very interesting when you consider that sort of poll after poll after poll has shown that millennials are buying houses later, they're getting married later, they're having children later. So I wonder if it's going to take them even longer than previous generations to really get clued in, though they're very well educated about the political issues.
Historically, midterm elections especially have a low voter turnout, and of the people polled, older women are more motivated to vote and to actually vote. And I think with younger people, they just feel disillusioned. And like Anthony said, that no matter who's in control, things are going to remain the same. And I think especially millennials have less chance of buying a house, higher health care costs. They feel like things have not really changed, so what's the point of really voting anyway?
Right. Also in the poll, you asked them about sort of not party affiliation, but what would encourage them to vote for a particular candidate and whether or not being part of a specific party would be the trick, and really it wasn't.
It's not. Among younger people today, we see increasing independence, or at least self-identified independence. That doesn't mean they always vote the same, with the same party, but it does mean that increasingly they're not picking a side as they get older. So as they get into their 20s, into their 30s, we've seen past generations start to separate, and this generation is not. So that increase in independence is one thing I think sort of makes this group a little bit different. The other part too is that by definition these are folks who've come of age in a digital world, and one of the things we find is that they're engaged not necessarily always in politics, but they post on social media or they try to connect online a little bit more. Whether or not that's effective, I think, is a point of discussion, but it's something that they have at their disposal that maybe other generations didn't, and they seem to take advantage of it.
I wonder if that sort of speaks to what both you and Ashley said about, not thinking that they can change anything. Then what's the point of sort of declaring your allegiance to a particular party if no matter who's in power, it's all sort of going to look the same,
Absolutely, and young people identify with politicians who, identify with their values more than party. They want someone who understands them, has the same values, as opposed to I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm a socialist.
Right.
It's more about how that person makes them feel and if they feel they relate to that person.
Your biggest takeaway from this poll, Ashley, and then you.
I think that people are energized, but it's kind of a waiting game to wait and see if all that energy and that activism is really going to pay off, and that's all that matters. You can post online, you can go to rallies, but if you don't vote, it doesn't really mean much.
Yeah, what about you, Anthony?
Some of the big differences stood out are on immigration, too, which, of course, is a hot topic of debate this time around. And this is a very diverse generation. In fact, it's the most diverse generation of all that we see in the voter segments. And they're more likely to know someone who's an immigrant or come from a family who are immigrants. And so the numbers on them saying that immigrants contribute, as opposed to older folks who are more likely to say, relatively more likely to say that immigrants don't contribute to society, is one of the striking differences.
That's interesting. Anthony Salvanto, Ashley Edwards. Anthony and Ashley, I see a
Thank you.
podcast in that. It's got a ring to it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amber.